Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Killer Cats Chapter 13. We are back, and we are celebrating the release of Terrifier 3. I mean, it should have been a dead giveaway right here, I'm certain of that. But I am Bobby Munson, for those who don't know, underneath this mask. And right beside me, my partner in crime with these Killer Cats, it's Astrid Pizarro. How are you doing, Astrid?
Really excited to be talking about this one. I've been wanting to watch like a new horror movie that was like new. So I'm glad this came out at a good timing for me. How was it for you?
Oh, absolutely. I've seen it twice already, to be honest with you. So I've got a lot to discuss when it comes to this movie, and I'm glad that we're getting it out of the way now. Um, First and foremost, want to mention congratulations, Terrifier 3, the independent movie that now has gone number one at the box office and destroyed Joker Folle Ado, or don't, whatever you want to call it. But either way, Joker's out of the picture, and Art the Clown's the It Clown this season. So Terrifier 3, yes, we are going to talk some very in-depth stuff here. This is your warning now, people. This is a spoiler-heavy review. If you haven't seen the movie, go to your local theater and support this independent triumph,
Yeah.
as we need them to continue to make more Art the Clown films moving forward. But let's just start with, before we even start with Terrifier 3, Terrifier 1 and 2, a little bit about them, and of course the background story. So Terrifier itself isn't where Art the Clown was first seen. He was actually a part of a short film that was made called The Ninth Gate, which actually plays very beautifully into something that happens in Terrifier 3 as well too. The Ninth Gate was then adapted into what we know as All Hallows Eve, which was the kind of the collective stories that come together. Art the Clown's introduced, and there we go to Terrifier 1, Terrifier 2. This one, Terrifier 3, actually kind of picks up the story and the lore of Terrifier 2 more than anything. That story is a continued story and continued very, very, very well. This has so much more depth to it than what I
Yeah.
was expecting for
Yeah.
all the news coming out, the buzz coming out about how horrible it was. People were walking out. It's disgusting. You know, they had the gimmicky barf bags at the theaters for you and stuff like that. So I was expecting a gore fest from start to finish, and yet the story and the depth and the acting in this
Mhm.
movie far beyond what I was expecting. Your initial thoughts in that sense of this movie?
It made me laugh seeing all the stuff on social media because I'm not crazy or anything like that. Obviously, we're here, but still, it's like it's one of those that I took it and I said I told my brother, let's eat before the movie just in case, because I want to be sure before I get sick. But at the same time, the signs just made me like, because he's like, usually when people say stuff like that, so people that are not used to watching horror, so he's like, I think we'll be fine, but we still ate just in case before the movie started. But it just seeing the signs, it just like I feel like it helped the market even more because now people are more curious as to why there were people sick. So I feel like it does benefit the movie in that aspect. And to me, I mean, it wasn't. I don't want to say that bad, but it was like it wasn't bad enough that I could just be sick though. Then I guess that tells a little bit something about me more than more than anything. But again, like you said, it's just the fact that what I enjoyed about this movie is the fact that we still get the story there. And it's like I did watch All Hallows Eve. I didn't enjoy it though. I think I fell asleep once during it, and I hated the fact that that happened because I enjoyed Terrifier 1, but then 2 had been my favorite one out of the between 1 and 2 so far. And then I was seeing this one, I was like, shoot, now it's between 2 and 3 because I feel like 1 definitely fell off that ranking at this point. And I did like the storytelling, how it continues on from this movie and how it's going to continue on to the fourth one as well.
Yeah, and the thing is like it depends on your level of queasy when it comes to this particular movie too, because there is things in here that are going to turn some stomachs. The opening scene, the one that they keep talking about people walking out on, the controversy there, and spoiler warning, it involves children. And now a lot of people are up in arms about this, about the involvement of kids being murdered in a movie. First of all, it's never shown directly, like the actual murder. You hear a murder of a child, you see aftermath, but you never directly see it like you do the violent nature of the killings otherwise in this entire picture. The other thing is too, if these people never seen a movie like a horror movie before, this is not the first time people that a child has died in a horror movie. It has happened many times before. Now, it does toe the line a little bit. So I understand if you're uncomfortable with this kind of stuff, granted, just don't watch these movies. It's pretty simple and easy to go by. But they start Terrifier 3 off in the nature of we're inside of a home. It's Christmas time. There's a little girl who keeps saying she hears something on the roof. Her mom assures her that it's just Santa's elves coming for a routine inspection before Christmas to make sure the chimney's big enough for Santa to get down and that the reindeer are going to be supported by the rooftop and everything like that. And mom promises to put out milk and cookies for Santa's elves that night. And lo and behold, Santa wasn't Santa after all. Santa was good old Art the Clown back at his old shenanigans, and he proceeds to hack up this family quite disturbingly. First, the son is hacked up in his room. That's the one we don't immediately see. But then he goes after the parents, and we got the mom and dad laying in bed there, and Art comes up and just starts axing the husband. And as the wife turns around and she sees the blood all over her arm, and then Art, of course, like right to him doing these things. And I gotta say, first of all, David Howard Thornton is an ace in this movie, taking the Art the Clown character to a whole new level. It's almost like he sat there and studied silent films and mimes and stuff like that in order to get down his mannerisms for this movie to really sell it throughout the entire film. We knew exactly how he felt, what he was thinking, what was on his mind without him speaking a damn word throughout this entire movie. He then proceeds to go after the mother. She is taken out, and just when you think this is the worst of the worst, you got Art the Clown eating some bloodied up cookies and milk, and then he hears just underneath one of the cupboards in the kitchen the little girl making noise, which he opens up, turns his head ever so slightly, gives that little wave. Nothing else is shown, and I think probably for the better, I guess, in this point. But we can presume that the little girl did not make it. Was that the way you took this as well?
Yeah, I did like the fact that this particular scene, though, when it starts, it says that it happened 6 years ago, and I like knowing that difference there because I thought it's something like that. We would start the movie. Like my thought process was, we would start this movie with the way it ended, with the Jericho scene in the hospital. So I thought that was the opening scene to begin with. So I was like, okay, then Jericho's the one that's murdered that people are crying about. That was my thought process. Seeing it that it involves children and family, I kind of understand why a lot of people were like, like hesitant about it. But at the same time, like I'm glad they didn't show us how the young boy was killed, just the end of it, basically. So I'm glad that that didn't show up. I'm glad they didn't show us how the daughter was killed, if she was, because she most likely was. So, but the detailing here, especially with the mom's like scene here, the way she gets killed and how she keeps screaming every single time, no matter what he does to her, that was just, I was like, wait, what is happening here? And I did like that when they show us this and they give us the timeline that it was 6 years ago. They're basically telling us that this is how it happened, the stuff that happened basically during the first movie, and that's how it starts there. And I was like, wait, how do we go from there? And then we basically jump to like the ending slash beginning of two, and then we go back to what three really is. I was like, oh, so that was interesting though, like the part how they show us a different I don't want to say storylines, but the different timelines here at the same time. Because then we jump into the Jericho scene, and obviously that's the end of two. So I was like, I like how they give us that difference there, and I feel like here it just made me think more about like his story. It's like, how did he end up in that house and like targeting them as well too? Because I don't want to say he doesn't often do that, but I feel like usually he goes in by the people that are like close enough to other people that he knows, like that happens with Sienna. So I feel like kind of like random-ish in a way that he did that. But like also to go off of what you said, I told my brother I feel like in this one though, Art the Clown had more like facial expressions and more mannerisms that helped us like go through what he's thinking without telling us anything. And then he's like, "Oh, he did that in two as well." And I was like, "Yeah, but I feel like in this one he did more than in two."
Mm-hmm.
I feel like that he said so much with his body language more than he did in two. And I feel like it was so very interesting because I feel like we were obviously in his head without being in his head, if that makes sense. And it's
Yeah.
like the detailing there was a lot better in this one to me than it was in two, and it just made me wonder about him as an actor. What did he do differently this time around, like you mentioned? Because you could see the difference in the improvement in a good way as an actor, how he did this role, and it was incredible in that aspect of it as well.
Yeah. It's maybe I missed something too because I honestly thought the opening scene was present day, but this was actually after the Santa Claus scene that we see later, because he does
That's
have that
yeah.
that beard across his face that he takes from the
Maybe.
Santa right before
Mm,
he heads to the mall, kind of thing. So I almost kind of pondered about whether or not this might have been the family of the Santa later in the movie. I like because he
mhm,
mentions about I
yeah.
have kids, I have grandkids and stuff like that. So I
Mm,
wondered if that could have been the aspect, but maybe I missed
yeah.
something entirely. I'm not 100% sure.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I was trying to put it together too because, like I said, I kept thinking of like timeline wise. I would keep thinking, were we going to continue on? Because I know they filmed this like almost like right after. So I was thinking like they continued on from the Jericho scene. So seeing this as the opening scene made me wonder how it fit in the storytelling. So I was like, that's something that maybe I have to watch it again to see what the connection there now.
yeah. And like you said, yeah, we jump from there to going 5 years back to the end of Terrifier 2. We find
Hmm.
an officer that finds Art's decapitated head where
Yeah.
Sienna had cut his head off. Thinking that he had found a body, he calls it in. All of a sudden, the body gets up and the body attacks this guy. And then we see him with this guy's head just kind of clips it on so that he can get to the place where he needs to go, which it would be where we run into Chris Jericho's appearance in the movie. So we find out that Vicky, one of the victims from the very first movie, has now been taken over by a demon and has kind of birthed or rebirthed the head of Art the Clown at this point in time. The body returns. Jericho's taken out. Big thumbs up there on that one. So,
I'm glad it happened quickly. Thank God.
yeah. Yeah, very minimal scenes with Jericho. It's fantastic. But then we see Art and Vicky on a bus afterwards. Art's now got his head back on. He's a bloody mess, and he sees somebody dressed up. This must be Halloween or around Halloween.
Yeah.
Someone's dressed up as Art the Clown, and he's all excited, like, "Wow, you two have done miraculous with your costume. Can I get a photo?" And there's just this cynical little smile that David Howard Thornton has when this part happens. And the next thing you see is Art the Clown with a completely clean clown suit all of a sudden. It's like, so the kill happened off screen, and I know a lot of people are complaining about off screen kills. Now, this one and one later, I will give and say, yes, they didn't happen on screen. One that I think is going to be open to debate when we get to that point in this
Yeah.
conversation. So, but yes, it's where we went from there. It starts telling about the kind of telling the lore, and there's a lot of theories out about Art the Clown's supernatural ability and stuff like that. And we'll summarize that a little bit towards the end. We'll get through the flow of the show, and then we'll
Mhm.
talk about some of the theories and everything from there. So this movie then goes from one thing to another. It's developing the story of Sienna coming back to live with her aunt and uncle and her cousin, and her trying to do her best to overcome all the garbage that happened to her. And I mean, they do such a great job with
Mhm.
and not just in the writing, but the actual actress playing Sienna Shaw in this movie, Lauren
Mhm.
Lavera,
Mhm.
is marvelous, absolutely
Yeah.
marvelous at having this psychological breakdown that a lot of horror movies try to do but don't do as
Mhm.
effectively as what is done in here. Her performance throughout this movie is A plus brilliant.
Yes. Yes, I could say like I enjoyed her in two, but I feel like she did so much better on this one too. Like you could feel Sietta's pain, even though you haven't been through any of what she's been through to this. And the way she does it, like the way she plays off like that PTSD that she has from the experience with him, the loss of her mother, the distance with her brother, and then now thinking like she knows it's not over, like having all of that in her mind at the same time. And it's like she does such an incredible job of translating everything on screen to us. And it was just so amazing. And not only that, but to think of like to put it later on with everything that happens, like all the pain that she has to go through with her family as she's confronting R2 and just thinking How like I feel like she did such an incredible job here. I just like, and I love seeing the praise for her online for the way her role on this one. I feel like she did incredible, and I'm so happy for to see so many people like giving her such a positive feedback about it.
Mhm.
And it's like that makes me even more excited for the next one, just thinking about the fact that she's gonna carry this on to the next one here.
Oh, absolutely. She was fantastic. And also fantastic in this, and got to give mad props to Elliot Fulham, who plays Jonathan Shaw, her brother, who I thought was almost entirely forgettable just about in the second movie.
Yeah.
And in this movie, I cared about this kid. Like,
Mm-hmm.
this kid shines in Terrifier 3. And that's what Terrifier 3 does well, is bringing these characters to a point where we actually care about the people being
Mm-hmm.
victimized by Art and by Vicky. I cared enough that I felt something for them, which is a big thing in horror. If you actually care about the cast of
Yeah.
characters, you're going to care that much more about the horrible things that are going down and happening to him. So Jonathan's away over at college.
Mm-hmm.
He's trying to get on with his life. He's got a roommate who's, stereotypical college boy that's, hey, we're roommates, so we're buddies, but they're really not at the same time. And the girl
Mm-hmm.
that he's dating is a podcaster. She has a true crime podcast, and she wants to get Jonathan onto her show to be able to talk about all the things that happened to him. He's reluctant, doesn't really want to do it. We even see a scene where he's watching said podcast to check it out. And on there, the co host of this podcast with her is actually accusing Sienna of being the one behind the
Mm-hmm.
crimes, of being Art the Clown herself, and that she is the number one suspect. And this really, like, the narrative of the podcasters trying to go and get real life victims of an actual act like this to be on their show, I think
Mm-hmm.
is a great narrative on our world today, and how people are very insensitive at times when real life
Mm-hmm.
tragedy strikes, and not thinking about those who were hurt by it or struck by it and how it affects them personally. So I thought this movie handled that portion of it brilliantly.
I agree, and it reminded me a lot of Sam and Scream as well, and that aspect of like the way she gets blamed for everything that happened in Woodsboro later, and to put it like that, the way she gets framed online and the online hate that she receives. So it just reminded me of that a little bit, and I hate to compare it to Scream, but that it just sent me back to those particular scenes that felt a little bit too real there. From Melissa as she's acting, giving us that moment of she's like, I remember the quote was like, "Being famous is not as all cracked up to be," and you can see that here when Jonathan's watching it and seeing it's like all the pain that I've been through, and even worse for Sienna than him as well. On top of it, and just thinking about the fact that people think it's her, and it's like that's just incredible and like in a terrible way to think about. And yeah, just when I saw that, I was like, I like that it's a podcasting thing just because it's something more modern to put it like that.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, just thinking about like the victims are the ones that get blamed in the end, and you see that happening here too.
Oh, exactly. And so
Hmm.
I love that dynamic that happens. And from there, Sienna starts to show, like, they try to tell that line about, is she going crazy? Is Art really coming back? No one will believe her, so she's afraid to go and tell her aunt, her uncle, and those around her that she feels it. She understands that it is. And we also get treated to more information regarding Sienna's father in a scene showing the drawing that he made for her of this character, this strong woman character that he had created, that has that magical sword that can defeat demons. And this is where some of the theories come into play, that Sienna's father might be the one who inadvertently created Art the Clown, or at least created the demons that had possessed said characters like Vicky and like Art. And Art very well himself could be possessed by a demon. He could have been a regular serial killer at one point in
Hmm.
time, now possessed by a demon,
Hmm.
which then would explain why he's got supernatural abilities and why
Hmm.
he feels more impossible to defeat at this point in time
Hmm.
than he did in the previous installments of the franchise itself. So it's interesting to see that her father at least created her character. He's created this superhero character in Sienna, and she's coming into her own here to start to realize that she is that power. She is the one that can save this world from the demonic possession of Art the Clown, of Vicky, of any of these demons that are coming from, let's say, the ninth gate of hell.
And I like how this connects back to the second one too, because we see that Jonathan has the drawings from their dad, and you see that's kind of like how he was introduced to Art the Clown with the drawings from their dad. So I think it'll be interesting if in the fourth one we do get more details about that, because I know we know certain things about the dad, but we don't know entirely about him either. So it's like it'll be interesting to know if he's the one that introduced Art, because at the end he's the one that's introducing somebody who's causing Sienna pain, which is caused by somebody obviously that she loved. So that kind of coming like full circle in that aspect, I feel like that's something that will be interesting to touch upon later, if it is true. And thinking about the power that he has, because you can also think about it and that you can draw from that conclusion as well, because based on the interaction that they have with her drawing, so that makes you feel like something like that could have happened with the drawing that he had of Art as well. And where did he get that inspiration from Art as well? Then thinking about like what he looks like, this, describing him, because he doesn't look like a regular clown. So obviously it's like, where did he get that inspiration from? So I think that's something that they can also touch up on as go moving forward. And I feel like that's something we could see in the next movie too, that I would like to see more detailing of, because I like the story here and I would like to know a little bit more about his origins, because you don't know much about it either.
No, not at all. So, and so before we even start getting any further, we got to start talking about the Santa Claus scene, because this is really what comes up next, and one of the, I'd say, most difficult scenes in some ways. I know that there's a scene more gory and more disturbing than this scene in particular, but this Santa guy was kind of nice to Art, especially at first. So Art sees, and I love the mannerisms here, when he looks through the
Yes.
window and he sees Santa Claus sitting at the bar. And he's like, oh my, he's like a kid in a candy shop. Like, he completely
Mm-hmm.
shoves by the two women that are leaving the bar in order to get through to go see Santa Claus. And he's all up and jumping up and down, like all excited. And this is the point where this Santa Claus tells him, yeah, the beard here, it's real, my friend. It's real, because if you don't have a real beard, you're not Santa Claus. And so Art's okay, okay. And guy's telling him, let's, hey, Clowny. He gives him a nickname, Clowny. Let me buy you a drink and everything like this. And Art goes along with it. He goes to take this shot. He drinks it back, and he turns around and spits it in the face of the guy who just bought it for him. So now everybody's getting irritated. Then Art all of a sudden starts to urinate on this guy's leg, and I'm like, man, Art, dude, like, this isn't cool. Like, this guy bought you a drink and everything. What are you doing, man? So he proceeds to, what I would say was, give the easiest deaths to the two other guys in this scene by giving them gunshot wounds that take them out pretty quickly. But Santa gets it the worst, because Art had to have a new contraption. He sits Santa down in this chair, straps him in, and he's got this contraption he's made with liquid nitrogen to freeze limbs and stuff like that. And exactly what he does, he freezes the limbs of this poor guy and starts cracking them open with this thing before proceeding to actually freeze his face and then remove that beard that you then see him attached to his own face and start to go parade around as Santa Claus. And this scene was wild in so many ways. It was entertaining because the hilarity between Santa and Art the Clown, but then it becomes very disturbing, because you're like, man, this guy was one of the most innocent people in every
Mm-hmm.
sense of the word. He's just a Santa Claus out for a drink one evening and happens to cross the wrong psychopath. And oh my goodness, that freezing of the limbs was a
Mm.
step above what they've done before.
I think it's ironic too, because if you think about it, Santa was the nicest out of all the three guys, and he got the worst out of
I
it.
know he did, yeah.
I just like I kept thinking about that. I was like, but he was nice to you though. I cannot even begin to imagine the other two who were like more terrible to you. Got the like quick deaths. Like, what is happening, Art? What is going through your mind? I'm just very curious right now. And it's like not only that, but I think it's, I don't want to call it weird, but thinking about the fact that he's so creative, it sounds terrible to say it like that, but it's so creative with every single kill, because not every kill is the same. Like none of them, they all have something different whatsoever. First, he does the family was with the chainsaw, and then this one the nitrogen. Then we have a gun. And it's like everybody gets killed in so many different ways. And then the mall we get something different. I was like, geez, like what do you have in that Santa bag? He has his whole like weapons in here to kill everybody somehow. And it's like I use this weapon, I'm not satisfied, I'm gonna use the next one. And it's like how how does he like one up the next one somehow?
Yeah, and like you said, you bring up the mall scene, which is the next big one, where he
Mhm.
actually goes to the mall after this, or presumably after this, and maybe after the killing of the family at the beginning of the movie, we're not entirely sure.
Mhm.
But he goes to this mall dressed as Santa. The Santa that's normally there is on his break, whatever. So Art goes with his big bag of toys and sits down and starts handing out toys to the children. While the parents, mind you, at first are completely distracted by their cell phones, not paying attention to their children, which is kind of a message. Pay attention to your damn kids and don't let them talk to strangers. So these kids are getting presents from Santa Claus until suddenly people are like, well, wait, that's not the actual Santa Claus. Oh, what gave it away? The evil clown face or the blood? Like one of those two had to give something away, I guess. So they call security. Security's
Mhm.
trying to clear things up, but one of the kids is still trying to rip open a present. And he's like, "What did I get?" And as he finishes opening that box, all of a sudden you see this massive explosion and the aftermath of just this ash and soot and body parts everywhere. And I don't know how many people Art got in this process, but he got a whole lot.
Yeah.
Kids, parents, everybody that was in that mall. He took
Hmm.
out a big number of people in one shot.
Yeah, that's the part. It's like how does this guy and I'm like he had the time of going through that bag and putting everything that he could think of. How does he know how to do a bomb to begin with to make this happen? That was just like my thought process. Like I know he made it happen because that was part of the like the plan where he was in the house. But I was like, how do you know everything you need to make a bomb and every like you make sure like the nitrogen works before you leave and everything? How? I just don't understand this. Uh, but this is just the other part that I mean of like him be creative because he just killed so many innocent people in like such a like quick swoop to put it like that. And
Mm-hmm.
so and the funny part, like you said, thinking about like the parents that didn't realize that Santa's not Santa, and I was like, why give it away the makeup, blood? Because you should have noticed it was a little something off about this Santa, just a little something.
Yeah,
And it's like
just a touch.
it's like I don't understand how he got away with it, but it sounds funny thinking about the aspect that the parents didn't notice, and then all of a sudden one of them is looking for the kid, and that's when she realizes like his arm is somewhere else, and I was like, oh gosh, and the fact that this is Christmas time and there's so many kids around. I don't know how James is gonna do the kill count for this scene because this is just I cannot even begin to imagine how many bodies he's gonna count.
It's quite a few. It definitely is. It might take a while to count them all,
Yeah.
but from there we get to kind of our finalish type scene. We get to the climax of this whole thing, where Sienna is in her room upstairs. She can hear her aunt and uncle talking very loudly, mind you, about how she is problematic. She's going to be a trouble, and that she should have never come there. And we even hear her uncle saying, maybe we should just go and end this right now. Let's go smother her in her sleep. And right then, I'm just like, wait a second. I'm like,
Mm,
something tells me this ain't aunt and uncle because no matter how frustrated they are, that aunt and uncle were never going to talk about
mm-hmm.
going to an extreme of smothering Sienna in her sleep. So as she walks into the kitchen, right there, standing there, is Vicky. And I'm like, oh my goodness. Okay, here we go. And then we get, Art goes and knocks out Sienna, and she wakes up, comes to, and what we're left with is Vicky sitting around the Christmas tree with the presents. We've got Sienna's aunt in the one seat, Sienna in the other. They're
Mm-hmm.
both tied up, and in the middle of the two of them is this present, which has got some blood coming out of it, and we're thinking, no, what could this possibly be? And in fact, the first thing that comes to your mind is that there's only one person that could potentially be underneath of this whole thing, and that is Gabby, and the niece of Sienna here, and that's the immediate thought. And what Art and Vicky actually
Mm-hmm.
imply to the two of them is that this is Vicky that's inside of there.
And thinking about leading to this too, because when after she sees everything that happened at the mall and the news, she starts freaking out in a way that she gets that panic attack because she knows Art is close to her. And this is one of the scenes that I enjoy the most from Lauren here because her acting was so incredibly done, so incredibly well here. And even everybody around her too, like the way they responded to it, they're like, okay, well, let's calm her down. And then she said, I want to get Jonathan, call Jonathan. And her uncle's like, okay, I'm gonna call him, I'm gonna go get him. And then the aunt is telling her, it's like, I got her some pills so she can calm down. So thinking about the fact that she was sleeping, when I hear the voices, I thought she was dreaming. That was my first thing. So I was thinking when she goes downstairs, she's gonna wake up and realize that it's just a dream. So thinking about this, then we see the uncle basically parked outside the college waiting for Jonathan, and he gets a call and is basically saying, "Yeah, yeah, I'm coming right down." But you can hear in the voice that it's not actually Jonathan. And we've heard Art the Clown and his little sidekick in the second one too, like imitating their voices in their cell phones too. So we know that that's something that's done in the past too. But this is the part that I don't want to say like torn, just because the all the bodies here, I was thinking like my sister, the math is not mathing here. So this aspect, like you said, thinking of the head, I was thinking the head was probably the uncle, was my first standpoint. It wasn't Gabby. I was thinking I want to know where Gabby is. But at the same time, I didn't like that all this happened off screen. This is the one that we were talking about
Mhm.
before, because we have the uncle that got the phone call. We get Jonathan that's MIA, thinking about it because he's not in the scene yet. And we haven't seen the uncle, we haven't seen Gabby. So we have a huge gap in here from when the uncle went to pick up Jonathan. So we have three characters here in between this scene and the pickup that we don't have any information on. We don't have anything whatsoever here. And I know the movie was already long because it was more than 2 hours as it was. But it just like tore me the fact that we didn't get to see this, which makes me wonder if we'll see it happening on the fourth one. Like they'll kind of do what they did here and kind of go back in time and give us that aspect of it, because I would love to see that. But here I kept thinking, oh, it's the uncle at first. And then with the back and forth they had, I forgot what the dialogue was like exactly, but my brother said, "Watch it. That Art, it's gonna put the glasses on the head and make them think it's Jonathan." And I was like, "Shoot, if that is true, then Jonathan got killed off on screen." I was like, he was becoming such a like permanent character here. I would have preferred if he died to actually see it happening rather than have something off screen. It just feels like it has no value to his character here at this point. So that was really strange. So that was the first thing. And then thinking about the uncle, I was like, wait, so the uncle made it home or what happened? I was like, it just made me think of like so many questions at that moment. And seeing Sienna tying down, I was thinking I liked it better on the second one where she was able to fight back before rather than leading to her being tied up already, if that makes sense.
Oh, for sure. You know, as we started saying this, I completely realized that we forgot to talk about the shower scene. So we'll go back to that in a
Oh,
little bit.
yeah.
So we
Mm-hmm.
will go back. But during this scene, yes, a lot of things are misleading. And yes, the uncle's death obviously happens off
Mm-hmm.
screen. We see his body, we see his head eventually on top of the Christmas tree pointed out as Art's decorating the tree with blood and
Mm-hmm.
guts. Um, and then they, of course, they reveal first and foremost that they say it's Gabby. That they show ahead, it's Gabby. The
Mm-hmm.
mom is destroyed. She is hurt. And then what I would say is by far, and I know a lot of people will argue the shower scene as being the most gruesome, but I don't know. Like the way that they kill the aunt here in this scene
Mm-hmm.
is right up there in terms of
Yeah.
creativity,
Mm-hmm.
disgustingness, like just skin crawling type situation. So they basically take a big plastic tube shoved into her mouth, which they stick rats down, and they light the rats with a flame at the end of their tail, so they're forced to go straight down the throat. And of course, then they release them the only way that they know how. But so the rats are okay for a minute until Art decides to stomp all over them afterwards. Um, yeah, it was a brutal death scene, and now it kind
Mm-hmm.
of at this point leaves Sienna believing she's got nothing left. She's got nothing left, and this is the catalyst for Vicky to find a broken down Sienna to try to get into her body, to possess her body. That's when Gabby comes into the picture, and we realize, oh, it's not Gabby. So
Mm-hmm.
everything seems all well and good until they, like you said, they put the glasses on the head and reveal that it is no other than Jonathan. Or is it? That is the big question. Or is it?
Mm-hmm.
Like when you have a character you built up this well in this movie, do you have that kill in particular be
Exactly.
so just like, oh, by the way,
Mm-hmm.
and we know Vicky and Art lied right to their faces about it being Gabby. So are they also lying
Mm-hmm.
about this being Jonathan at
Jonathan.
the same time?
Mm-hmm.
Maybe we'll find out Jonathan's still alive, or like you said, maybe they'll go back in time to show us what did happen with the Jonathan
Mm-hmm.
situation. Considering that, yeah, like you said, over 2 hours, there isn't like you can't make this. You couldn't make this a 3 hour movie. Well, you could. I mean, I don't know how many people would have
Mm-hmm.
tolerated it, but over 2 hours is quite long for a
Mm-hmm.
slasher horror film of this
Yeah.
nature. So Gabby comes back into the picture. Vicky tries to possess Sienna. Sienna resists because obviously she's a strong badass woman. They ain't gonna take this shit.
Mhm.
And then at this point in time, Gabby pleads with Art and Vicky to allow her to give one present to Sienna before they're killed off. And so they agree to this. And Sienna knows damn well that in the one gift is the sword that is going to be able to destroy Art the Clown, destroy Vicky. She's well aware of this because she went snooping. She rewrapped the gift, which you could tell because when Vicky takes it, she goes, "Somebody did a bad job wrapping this." And I started laughing. I'm like, "Oh, that plays back to what was written earlier in the movie when they said that Gabby
Mhm.
constantly opens presents and rewraps them and stuff too." So I thought
Mhm.
that was a great callback.
Mhm.
So they give the present to Sienna, and you think, okay, she's going to be able to open this. Oh, not. We got cat
Yeah.
invasion. So we think that it's going to be easy for Sienna to do this, but Art makes sure it's not so easy as he takes a hammer and completely smashes
Mhm.
the hands of Sienna before cutting them loose of the tape for her to open this gift. So we're watching as she tries to peel this box open with this. And a lot of people maybe not familiar with this might not realize that as she opens it, and the reason she was able to then fight Art and fight Vicky at this point in time without problems with her hands, or when you see later when her hands start healing, the reason for this
Mhm.
is because of the power of that sword.
That's right.
It
Yeah.
has healing abilities, and therefore her hands healed instantly.
Mhm.
She fights off Vicky to a certain degree, thinks that she's got Vicky. She's taking on Art. And then all of a sudden, Vicky's body starts to melt into the ground, and a portal kind of opens up, which then the portal then starts to have Gabby fall into it. Gabby's holding on with dear life. Sienna then, after having stabbed Art and thinking she's got him defeated, runs over there, sticks the handle end of the sword down, holding it like this with the blades right through her hand, and trying to pull Gabby up. I thought, okay, Gabby's going to get out of this. No,
Mhm.
Gabby falls down into this pit. She's gone. Sienna falls to her knees. We see the hands heal, and she says, "Gabby, I will find you," kind of thing, which already I'm like, okay, sweet. They are setting up something here for
Yeah.
Terrifier 4 already.
Mhm.
This is perfect. Again, that
Mhm.
whole ninth gate of hell, which is their ninth gate, which is what this originally derived from, kind of plays into this and plays into the final scene that we see when we finally see Art get onto a bus. And there was a woman on the bus reading a book called The Ninth Gate, which has a clear author on it, which I think is going to come into play in the fourth picture
Mhm.
with somebody who is more knowledgeable and can help Sienna find a way to get to hell or wherever to this ninth gate in order to go
Mhm.
searching for Gabby and maybe put an end to Art and Vicky and all these demons once for all. So yeah, that was that scene. Thoughts on that before we talk about the horrendous, infamous shower scene?
So I was thinking for the fourth one, we do have that aspect that I would like to see that part from when the uncle gets picked up and then Jonathan being played into that and then getting confirmation of whose head it is because I really after they lied about Gabby, I didn't believe it was Jonathan. But at the same time I was disappointed that we didn't see him for like that second half of the movie at this point. So I'm like thinking, I'm like, I want the part with the uncle. I want the part with Jonathan. I'm guessing she's gonna go get Gabby and for probably defeat Art for once, and once and for all to think about it that way, and then hopefully get some more background about the connection between Art and her father. To me, those were the like the 5 points that I took from this that I'm hoping that would be discussed on the fourth one in some way, shape, or form. And I feel like more than anything, this scene, it just this particular climax is what makes like Lauren's performance so great because the way she's able to show us the pain that she's going through, like physically, and they put the she has Vicky has a crown of thorns that she puts on her, and like you can see
Mhm.
all the bloody mess that she's in, but she still has fight left in her to fight for her family and thinking of like, yeah, I'm gonna do it for them even though they're not here anymore, and like you said, using the sword to help out Gabby somehow and fighting through that pain to go after Art too. So just thinking of all of that and just, it sounds like it was a lot, but it just like it was only a couple minutes compared to what it was. So thinking about that and all the pain she had to go through because I was thinking of like the pain of like that hammer in my hands and I was like, I wouldn't be able like to do that and the way she was like shaking with her hand to try to open the present the way she did. And it's like all those little details in this particular scene entirely. I feel like it makes like it Lauren's like the second half of the movie and Lauren's performance really stand out here as like so great for me, and that's what made me like love her as a final girl even more now. So it's like I just love seeing her in this particular scene, make her look like a badass. And it just reminded me, it's like I can't wait till she wears the outfit again because that's something that I missed from this one.
Mhm.
And when I feel like that visual for what the outfit would have been great too. So I'm hoping that for the fourth one, we do get that little bit of the sword and the outfit back again for the fourth one as she does, get rid of art for good.
Yeah, no, I can't wait. I know that's going to be on the docket for the fourth one. It has to be a lot of things. I think the fourth one's going to be completely different from this too, in every sense
Mm-hmm.
of the word. So it's going to be great to see what they do with it. Obviously, they're going to get an even better budget, seeing as $2 million to make this movie. An opening weekend, it hit almost 19 million. Like, great job, everybody involved. Damian Leone, perfect. Acting, perfect. Let's talk about the shower scene because we did miss it. This is the scene that will, if you didn't turn away at the scene at the beginning, this one might get to you. So we have a conversation between Jonathan's roommate and his girlfriend about, she's really pushing the agenda of wanting to get them on her podcast. And she says these things, and Art the Crown just happens to be right around the corner. Here's this conversation. This is where David Howard Thornton was really, really
Yes.
funny. And she's like, I want to know all these things about him, like what it's like what does Art the Clown smell like? And they turn around to him and he, he's just got these
Yes.
great mannerisms. Or when the boyfriend turns around and goes, "Oh, it sounds like you want to get with him," and she's like,
Mm-hmm.
"No, no, no, it's not like that." And then you see Art, and he's just shucks kind of thing, like he really pours
Yeah.
it on here in a comical way.
Mm-hmm.
But the one key thing she says is, I want to know from someone what it was like to look into the eyes of
Yes.
Art the Clown, to look into that evil and know if you can sense what's going on in his brain. And so the two of them are then found in the shower while Art's taking a whiz in the urinal. And he turns around, grabs the chainsaw, breaks through, and he starts hacking and slashing away. He takes out the legs of the boyfriend, who's then laid on the ground. And he goes up to her, and I won't go into full details about what parts get taken off here because I don't want to get banned on the internet, but a whole lot of stuff gets taken off of these people. And the one thing is too is she actually has like her jaw is cut into it. It's like dangling off to the
Mm-hmm.
side as Art puts those glasses on her. And so that you can just see his eyes as he stares right at her in her last moments of life, so that she gets to know what it was to look like into his
Yeah.
eyes right before he finishes off. Then he goes to finish off the boyfriend, and what I would say is one of the most creative, interesting, and grotesque kills I have ever seen in a horror movie. That chainsaw went in places that most chainsaws never will ever go, and it will make most people uncomfortable to see where they go. But
Yeah.
oh my god, there was a lot of people that criticized that Art the Clown, the most horrifying kills only happen to the women in these movies. That ain't the case no more. Not whatsoever.
Mm-mm.
This guy got it really, really, really
Yeah.
bad in this scene. And all just because he happened to be dating the wrong person. I think is his biggest problem. He was dating the wrong person and it cost him big time. I will not go into details. People just watch it for yourself if you're that curious, or private message. I'll tell you in a private message, but I won't be telling you here on YouTube. Your thoughts on this crazy
uh,
shower scene?
I did like you said, this is probably one of the most creative kills out of the whole movie. Thinking the detailing that he has to go through, and then at the end, it's like she basically ate her words because she's like, I want to know what it's like to like be basically like in his presence in that situation with him. Well, it's kind of like in her words. I don't remember if she said like if he was attracted like somebody else, and then he's like, oh, she thinks I'm attractive, kind of thing, and like the way he does the facial expressions. I forgot who she compared it to though. I don't know if you remember, but it just made me laugh when that happened. But I like how he, in that aspect, he connected back to what she said and just thinking about like, you wanted to know what it's like to be in my presence. You don't want to know what it's like to be in that moment when I kill you. Well, here you go. And with the glasses and everything, I was like, shoo, we gave her that moment and she's done. You can talk about it in her podcast. Can you imagine that aspect of it? And the boyfriend, oh, you poor thing.
Yeah.
No, I can't even describe it. I was like, I saw everything.
Yeah, yeah, we sure did.
Everything. But it like the aspect that when Art does go in the shower, the boyfriend ends up like blocking him, so he ends up getting a lot of it first, and then the girlfriend does, and then he goes back to the boyfriend because he's still crawling in pain. So
Yeah.
he protected her for a long while there, up until like he was not able to at this point, and then the way he just kills him off, I was like, what did this guy do to you? Because the way he tortured nobody else, I think it was between him and the Santa, or the people that I was like, she's sharp. What's going on in that mind of yours? Is Jeez, didn't even do anything to you. So I thought it was ironic because it as before this happens to you, the roommate is calling Jonathan too to check up on him with the situation about the podcast and everything. So like to like have our heart go from here in this conversation to actually doing everything else too, and that's what this is the timing that makes me like wonder about the whereabouts of Jonathan, because this is the same campus where Jonathan is at. That's his roommate that he's talking to. So it's like that's the part of the gap that I was like wondering about too. But again, I was like the pacing of this movie, it didn't feel like it was 2 hours to me. I would have watched a little bit more too. And it's just like everything that happens here is like the detailing, like I said, from from the mannerisms to the facial expressions, and the kills are so creative. Everybody gets killed differently. Like nobody has the same kill, even with like different tools. The way he uses them too, like Lauren's performance, like overall, I like too. But this was so much better as well in so many aspects of it. So it's like now I'm stuck between two and three being the number one and one now. So I was like I'm tied up in there now with my rankings.
See, I'm going to take them as a package bundle because I like them so much. The distinct betterment of this one has to do with the funding as well too, because not all the gore never
Hmm.
felt like it was like it really felt realistic this time around, more so than even two.
Hmm.
But I understand why they had a better budget going into it, so you can play around a little better with some of those things. Both of them have great elements. Both of them are telling a story that's connected. And now I'm thinking the third one's going to kind of bring this almost like trilogy. I know that one is still canon, it pulls into it a little
Yeah.
bit, but I almost feel like two, three, and four are going to be their own little bit of a trilogy of a story.
Hmm.
And it's going to come to a great climax in the fourth picture when we get that real final battle between Sienna and Art the Clown, when the demon Vicky and all of this like comes together. I can't wait for it. I know that it can't come soon enough. I'm so excited. Love this movie. Highly recommend it. And yeah, and everything and the marketing around this. Like Art the Clown is everywhere this Halloween.
Spirit
You can get him
Halloween. Can
everywhere.
you
Oh,
imagine?
yeah, David Howard Thornton in full makeup is going
Yeah.
and meeting fans and scaring people. Like, kudos to everybody involved for everything they're doing, the interviews they're doing with podcasters,
Hmm.
the appearances that they're making to really push forward the narrative that, there's certain things that you can do as an independent
Hmm.
film to really connect with the fans. And that is exactly what Damien Leone and all of them have done. And then on top of it, they got their own song by my favorite one of my favorite bands, Ice Nine Kills. I don't know if you've heard it yet or seen the music video for it.
No, but I heard about it, but I haven't heard the song yet. But it's like,
So the
jeez.
music video, it ends up being like a 15-minute video, just so you're aware. The song
Yeah.
itself is only about 3.5 minutes, but they have David Howard Thornton in it. They have got people
Oh.
from all three Terrifier movies making appearances throughout as characters in it. Jose Mangan from Sirius XM is one of the main
Hmm.
characters. He plays himself in it, but he is in this movie. He dies in a gruesome way in this music video. This music video is right up there. It is disturbing, violent. It is one that when you go to YouTube, you have to show proof of age to even watch this video because it is that up out there kind of thing. So
Mhm.
even if someone isn't a big fan of, say, the style of Ice Nine Kills, because I mean it might not be
Yeah.
for everybody, I
Hmm.
recommend checking out the video because of the artistic nature of it. It is so great, and plus, watching Art the Clown jam out on a piano and a bass guitar is by far one of the funniest things I've seen all year.
What the heck?
Yeah, oh yeah, it is. It is bonkers. It's great.
Yeah.
So, but final thoughts. Any final thoughts that you wanted to add before we wrap things up?
Yeah, I was gonna say if you can, I don't want to say you have to watch All Hallows Eve, but if you can watch at least two and then watch this one, I would definitely recommend it. I feel like I'm enjoying the story like that they're creating here, and I can't wait for the next one for them to continue that moving forward, especially now with this budget they're definitely gonna get for the fourth one.
Oh
Um,
yeah.
And I wonder if it'll be for sure the last one because I see a lot of people posting the letterbox that it shows at the fourth and final installment. But I was like, I don't know the way this one was going. I was like, I wonder if maybe we could do kind of like what we did with Scream of like kind of close this chapter and have another chapter to it later on. It's like that will be interesting too.
It would be interesting. And again, just like every horror movie in the history of the world, the final chapter has never been the final chapter. So
We don't
we'll
believe
wait
you.
and see. But all I can say is thank you, Damien Leone and company, for giving us a great Terrifier film and
Hmm.
a great end to this series. But yes, that's pretty much it right now for our conversation about Terrifier 3, our review of Terrifier 3. So what we will do now is I'm going to pop your credentials on the screen there, Astrid, and let people know what you got coming up.
Well, you can find me a lot of my stuff on my YouTube channel, like my name right down there, Asher Pizarro, and click subscribe and click on that bell to be notified when I upload or go live, like another one of these. You can also find me on Twitter and Blue Skies, Asher Pizarro, Instagram and Threads, Asher Pizarro 20. And then usually you can find me on Tuesdays doing Taking Over with Ed Fry's Mr. OLED as we talk about all of NXT. We have Halloween Havoc coming up at the end of the month, and I got Bound for Glory with Mark coming at the end of the month with Kimi as a guest as well for us discussing all of that. So really excited for the wrestling we got at the last weekend of the month.
It should be a lot of fun. As for me, there's my credentials down at the bottom of the screen where you can reach out to me anytime at all. On Thursday nights, I am joined by the wonderful man with the angelic voice, Papa Smokes, for Ring Respect Radio. This week, we are doing a trip through the territories. Then on Sundays, you can catch myself, Mark Robson, and quite often Andre and Ed hopping in as well too to do our NFL predictions on Point of View. What else have I got coming up? What else have I got coming up? Well, let me just say Halloween night. Halloween night is a Thursday night this year. That means Ring Respect Radio is on a Thursday night, and we are bringing you our WTF Do We Know About Wrestling trivia night on Halloween. We're doing it completely different this time. It will be Halloween themed. I don't know any of the questions. I am not hosting this time around. Ed Fries is going to be taking the hosting duties on Ring Respect Radio that night. Myself, Papa Smokes, Auntie Collins, and Kimmy Sokol are all going to be on screen participating in the trivia, as well as all of you, whether Twitch or YouTube. You can join in the chat to participate in the trivia as well. Speaking of where to find those chats, YouTube, Twitch, all those things, and all of social media for OLE Podcast, right down at the bottom there. Follow us on all those. We got wonderful content coming out here on YouTube every single day, from short form content to long form content to live streams as well to support all our amazing contributors from all around the globe. You won't be disappointed. We appreciate every single one of you for tuning in to another chapter of Killer Cats. And guess what? We'll see you